Fridge play units throughout Dokkan's history have for the most part been pretty useless. Like, how many Fridge play units did you farm and then just never use? But Dokkan has dropped so many of them over the years that eventually some of them were bound to be good. And that's what we'll be covering in today's video. We'll go over all of the most notable Fridge play units this game has had. And obviously keep in mind that we're talking about Fridge play units here, so the standards won't be the same as summonable units. Like, the bar for what is considered good will obviously be lower, much lower, but yeah, let's get right into it. Starting with R-Tech Gohan, the second ever Fridge play unit in Dokkan history, and the best one so far. Unlike the R-Tech Goku, you could actually farm multiple copies of that Gohan at a time, meaning you could raise his super attack to level 10, which was a pretty big deal. Like bro, this guy released in the second month of the game. Team cost was still a big problem for like 99% of players, so the damage this guy could do relative to his team cost, assuming you farmed his super attack, yeah, he was insanely valuable. And since he was tech, he could help you clear the first ever strike event, featuring a new AGL SR Vegeta, the first ever strike character, a phenomenal Fridge play unit, if you were able to beat his event, because yeah, it wasn't easy. But the guy had arguably one of the best leader skills in the game, if not the best one, given 3 key to AGL type units. Back then this was just insane. Sure, the AGL type didn't have the best units at the time, but being able to consistently hit some characters' super attacks more than made up for it. And his kit wasn't bad too, like 40% attack was actually a pretty decent passive skill back then. Like, it was actually decent. SR Tech Chilled was also a pretty insane Fridge play unit, and for one reason, his leader skill. It was actually bugged on release, meaning it didn't reduce AGL type enemies attack by 20%, but actually 40%. This single-handedly made that guy the best leader to bring against any AGL type boss. So strike events for example, which were actually the hardest events in the game. So being able to take literally no damage with 2 Chilled as your leaders in some strike events was just so OP. Physical SR Super Saiyan Gohan was an absolute goat of our Fridge play unit. Back when he first dropped, the physical type wasn't in the greatest spot, and with how much they gave that guy, he was arguably the best physical type unit in the game, straight up better than some summonable SSRs, assuming he didn't have them with dupes, which by the way you could only use at a time to raise super attack levels. Like bro, he had a 12 key multiplier of 150%. This was just insane back then. Almost no unit in the game had 12 key multipliers that high, if any honestly. Combined with his pretty decent passive and AC level 10, yeah, he was hitting hard. So hard that I even heard that some players genuinely thought he was going to get nerfed. Like bro, the unit was not only good but also hype. Like they just cooked with him. But they didn't stop there. During the Resurrection of F campaign that dropped the next month, they gave a bunch of Friezas in the game Dokkan Awakenings, and one card stood out. The farmable strike event SR Int Mega Frieza, who could now Dokkan Awaken into an Int Golden Frieza. And let me tell you, that guy was insane for a Fridge play unit. Like keep in mind that at the time, most players didn't even have a single SSR character, let alone multiple SSRs. So being able to farm an SSR completely for free was huge, especially a good one. Like bro, the guy had a decent SA multiplier, a very good starter turn attack buff, and more importantly, could be farmed to SA level 10. So everything put together, the guy could absolutely cook. AGL SR Devilman has to be one of the best Fridge play unit in Dokkan history. Well, if you consider him as a Fridge play unit, as technically that guy could only be obtained from one of the World Tournament ticket banners that actually doesn't exist anymore. So now that I think about it, this guy is currently unobtainable. Still, he was obtainable at the time, and the guy literally had for the longest time the best passive a Fridge play unit could have, a 1% chance to get 1,000,000% attack. So pretty much one shot anything. And like sure, it's just a 1% chance, and unless you had like a Tsuki leader, super attack were still a hard thing to consistently pull off at the time of his release. But if you had the patience to pull through with this guy, you could pretty much beat any event in the game. And this is something that became extremely valuable with time. Literally years after his release, players were still using him to cheese hard events. So much so that the devs literally had to nerf him by limiting his damage in easiest and straight up banning him in some events. Like, he was just that guy. AGL Whis has to be one of the most valuable Fridge play units in this game's history. The guy had a 25% chance to start on super attack and had a free Senzu in his kit once you dropped below 30% HP. That Senzu alone made this guy so insanely valuable. He was a must on pretty much every single Fridge play team at the time. As a matter of fact, when I started playing the game back in 2018, this guy was still a must run on most Fridge play teams. That's just just how valuable that ability was. Tech Jackie Chun was probably one of the best super strike units in this game's history. He had a decent leader skill for fish play players, given key to arguably two of the strongest fish play types in the game, had the ability to seal on super, which was just so powerful in Dokkan events. The hardest content of the time, while also supporting the tech type, which was the strongest fish play type in the game. Like, it literally got LR Prime Battle Goku a couple of months after his release, who was for sure a top 5 fish play unit in Dokkan history. Talking about him, LR Prime Battle Goku was an insane fish play unit on release. He was the first LR in the game and had strengths per Gogeta's leader skill, an insane leader skill to have on a fish play unit, while also being able to do more damage than Gogeta, especially if you could get his 18 key super, which in that case just straight up made him the hardest hitting unit in the game as a fish play unit. Like, just think about how crazy that actually was. And also, isn't it crazy how GFuel sent me that beautiful Super Saiyan tub, which we're going to try right now. It's supposed to be a lemonade flavor. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of lemonade, so let's see if this one can surprise me. Okay, that's that's actually pretty good. Okay. That might genuinely be one of the best lemonade flavors I've ever tried. Nah, this is a this is crazy, bro. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that at all. I genuinely wasn't expecting that. This is actually good. Thanks again to GFuel, and if you want to pick up the flavor for yourself, it's not exactly available anymore. They sent me the top like a month ago, and I just found out time right now to do the review. Yeah, but they are bringing back that exact flavor in a brand new Super Saiyan 3 top this July, and you can pre-order it right now alongside 2 new Buu Saga GFuel flavors. And for honestly, I don't know how long, my code PROOF will give you 30% off at checkout, which is a pretty crazy discount. Like, that's insane, 30%. So if you're interested, all the links are in the description down below. Nonetheless, as good as Super Saiyan Goku was, his link set wasn't the best. Like, he only had 2 key links, with one of them being family ties, so you could argue that the guy only had 1 key link. But when you take into account his LR stats, who were by far and away the highest in the game, yeah, it wasn't even close. So the guy was literally the best unit in the game on release. Technically, it wasn't even possible to use him the day he dropped. Like, his grind was just so bad. Most players finished his grind weeks, if not months later, but he still was very good the whole first year he dropped. So the guy was still an insane fish play unit. And Goku Jr. was a phenomenal fish play unit on release. The guy was the first ever fully farmable fish play unit. Like, the first unit you could rainbow entirely for free by farming his special potential orbs, which was huge since the hidden potential system was still a pretty new feature at the time, meaning most players barely had enough potential orbs to put into their summable cards, let alone a fish play unit. And yeah, the guy was good. He did very good damage and had a decent Saiyan link set for the time. Nothing crazy by today's standards, obviously, but trust, at the time, this guy was insane. Tech Angel's Percentry Goku from the final showdown event was an insane fish play unit, all because of that 50% chance of gaining 180% attack at the start of turn. It was a coin flip ability, but when it procced, bro, the damage this guy could dish out was just ridiculous for a free unit. Like, he was literally hitting as hard as his Dokkan Fest counterpart. He was just less consistent. Honestly, I remember pulling the Dokkan Fest Tech's Percentry Angel Goku a year after his release and just being so disappointed by his performance. He genuinely felt like a worse version of his Rainbow Fish Play counterpart. But maybe I was just lucky with the coin flip. Nonetheless, this Fish Play Super Sentry Goku has to be like a top 10 or honestly even top 15 Fish Play unit in Dokkan history. Like, in my opinion, he was just that good. 1000 Days Goku was actually cracked on release. You could generally make the argument that he was the best unit in the game, or at least in the top 5. His leader skill was crazy beyond belief. Like, bro, he gave 3 key and 100% HP attack and defense to everything. So you could generally just run anything you want on his team. On paper at least. You needed 2 of them to do so, back when the friend system didn't let you mirror your own leader. And as you can guess, not many players, if any, had him at the time. Like, you had to log in every single day since the very first day the servers were up to have him at the time. But he was so good that he was actually a decent unit years after his release. Like, his kit was pretty phenomenal. He supported allies on both his 12 and 18 key super attacks, was a nuker with LR stats, something that was unheard of at the time. Like, Int Super Saiyan Gohan was the only LR nuker, and bro was still one of the hardest hitting units in the game, and he only gained attack per key spheres obtained. But not only could that new Goku hit hard, the guy was also pretty insane defensively, while bringing just so much support to the team with his healing per key spheres obtained, and support on super. Like, the guy was just cracked, bro. He dominated every hard event at the time, and the ones that released the following year. Int Raditz, even though not as good, was one of the most valuable fish play unit in Dokkan history, solely because he was the first fish play unit with an AoE super attack, which was just so valuable for the World Tournament, or special events where we faced multiple enemies. Thanks to him, players who didn't have any of the strength brolies could finally compete in the World Tournament. Like, he wasn't perfect, but one AoE unit was better than none, and made such a big difference in a devilish event. Like, I genuinely just have no idea how players even bothered with that mode without AoE units. I genuinely still remember my first World Tournament, and how it felt having 0 AoE units. Bro, I don't even think I knew AoE units were a thing or even existed. Bro, I literally just couldn't grasp how this mode was a real thing, bro. Without knowing the existence of AoE units. Like, to me this was just crazy, bro, that this was even allowed. Strength Kid Gohan was also a very good fish play unit on release. He was essentially just stats, but his stats were actually pretty impressive for a fish play unit back then. With the right amount of key spheres, he could dish out some pretty impressive numbers, at least for a fish play unit. And the fact that he was the best leader for the Planet Namek Saga category also upped his value. He was quite helpful for physical full power Friezas easy, and an absolute beast in prime battle events. Like, it might be hard to see if you weren't there at the time, but trust me, this guy was a phenomenal fish play unit back then. The Ginyu Force team were all some of the best fish play units in Dokkan history. Like, they weren't all that great alone, but together they were just absolute monsters, and a godsend for fish play players. If it weren't for them, I have no idea how I would have been able to grind Dokkan event medals of any unit when I first started playing the game, at least without using stones. Like, bro, I really used stones to beat some Dokkan events before finding out about the Ginyu Force team. The game was just like too overwhelming to understand when I first started. Too many things going on. So being able to farm a free team where all of the characters just perfectly linked together without you having to quite literally understand anything about the game was just so good. That team could easily beat almost every single event in the game, and some of the Ginyu Force units were literally on par with some notable cards. Like, Int Ginyu was genuinely an SBR monster, one of the very few units in the game that could actually take hits there. And Physical Recoup could actually look pretty impressive stat wise after some build up. Like, the Ginyu Force team was just insane. One, if not the best free play team in Dokkan history. Strength LR Vegetable Blue might just be the greatest free play LR in Dokkan history. Like, can you imagine that? They gave us one of the hypest character at the time as a free LR, while also making him one of the best units in the game as a free play unit. Like, they just cooked with this guy's initial release. He had an insane leader skill for a free play unit, like 3 key and 70% HP attack and defense, so super class allies was just so crazy. Bro literally had a better leader skill than Physical Vegetable Blue, one of his summonable counterparts. He stacked attack and defense on his 12 key super while having 80% attack and defense at the start of turn. Like, bro, his stacks went a long way with his start of turn buffs and other stats. He was literally better than his tech Dokkan Fest counterpart in almost every single scenario, since he stacked way faster, had prepared for battle instead of over in a flash, which just made him link way better on the Potara team, which was one of the best teams in the game, if not the best one, once LR Individual came out. Then Tech Visual Blue was better offensively, but the free play LR was way better defensively. So unless you liked to gamble and had Tech Visual Blue with multiple dupes, the LR was almost always the better option, which is still just so crazy to me. Just think about it. They released a Dokkan Fest TUR who was seen as one of the best TURs in the game, and they dropped a fish play LR of that same TUR literally a couple of months later, who was better in almost every single metric. Like that's just insane, and something that's probably never going to happen again in the history of this game, at least not for a character as hype as Vegetable Blue. LR Great Saiyaman 1 and 2 were a phenomenal fish play LR on release. They just had so much. They sealed on their 12 key super attack, raised allies attack for 2 turns on their 18 key, gave 4 key and 50% defense to super class allies, like this was an insane support type buff for the time. 4 key was nothing to laugh at, and also debuffed extreme class enemies defense. Like, they were straight up built for SBR, which was the hardest event in the game at the time. So this just shows you how insane they were. But like almost every great fish play LR the game had up until that point, their grind was just absolute garbage. You needed to grind so many medals from the extermination plan events, and the drop rates for those medals it was bad, but they were so good. that the grind was 100% worth it. Without them, I would have never been able to beat the Majin Buu Saga SBR stage. Int Android 21 was an insane free play unit on release. She had a unique name at the time, while linking up pretty well with all of the best units on her teams. Recovered HP on Super, and gave Android category allies 2 key and 30% attack and defense. A very good support type buff for the time. And since she was Int, you could build her full dodge. She was essentially everything you could ask for a fish play unit back then. Support and utility. The tech Jiren you could farm from Jiren's Dokkan event was actually a decent fish play unit. The guy had 50% damage reduction with 10 or more key, which by his time standards just meant the guy was a straight wall. I'm pretty sure I used him in the SVR Super Attack stage for the first time, and with a Whis or Icarus active, he was just invincible, which was all you wanted from him. You could let the other units on the team do the damage. Honestly, I wonder if they'll ever awaken those fish play cards that came with Dokkan events. I know they were mostly just there as SA fodder for their summonable counterparts, but this guy was genuinely good, and the best Dokkan event unit in this game's history. With an awakening, he could genuinely become insane. Int Gotenks and Ghost was just such a good fish play unit. He was just insane when he first dropped, when he awakened, and when he easy-ed. He could stun on Super, brought utility to the team with his Rainbow Orb changing and healing per Rainbow Keys first obtained, while also not being the worst stat-wise, at least once he awakened. Like bro, the Fusion SBR stage was one of the hardest SBR stages because of how much the category lacked defensive units. The whole strat was to kill enemies before they killed you, which was difficult since it only took one super on the wrong character for the run to be over, and physical Super Gogeta also didn't link that well with other fusion units. Two problems this guy fixed. With his stun, the enemies couldn't touch you, and with his Rainbow Orb changing, he fixed the team's key issues while letting you heal quite a lot if needed. Just an absolute monster. For sure, one of the best fish play units in this game's history. AGL Cyclopean Guard was unexpectedly such a great fish play unit on release. Never in a million years did we expect this card to be a card that could actually dominate the hardest event of the time. The guy was practically invincible in SBR post Super thanks to his defense on Super and damage reduction at the start of turn, while giving defense support to the whole rotation, which also turned Super 17 into an absolute wall in SBR, since the guy had the damage reduction but lacked the defense. Like those two together were a pretty nasty SBR rotation. Like without this card, I would have never beaten the Extreme AGL SBR stage, which was definitely one of the hardest mono SBR stages. Definitely one of the best fish play units of his year, as an SSR. Just imagine what his TUR could look like. The fish play middle coolers were honestly some of the best fish play units we ever got in this game. They all worked so well together, and with the new Dokkan Fest AGL middle cooler that came with them, like if you had him, you could literally beat some category SBR stages with them. That's just how strong they were. AGL middle cooler gave key support, the tech middle cooler debuffed the enemy's attack, the int middle cooler recovered HP at the start of turn, the strength middle cooler gave attack and defense support, and the physical middle cooler recovered HP as he did damage. They all brought something unique to the table while having unique names. They were just as good as the Rose clones on release, if not better. But they were not the only crazy middle coolers we got as fish play units. The int LR middle cooler army was just an insane fish play LR on release. Arguably one of the best fish play LRs in this game's history. His leader skill honestly wasn't bad at all, like 3 key and 70% HP attack and defense to extreme class allies was something of value for a fish play player. It's actually thanks to his leader skill and how good he was all around that many players were finally able to beat Super Sentry Goku's Easy at the time, which was by far the hardest Easy event in the game. Like bro, the guy had an amazing villain link set, had decent stats, and could launch up to 4 super attacks within the turn. He was generally on par, if not better, than some summonable LRs. As a free to play unit, the guy was just cracked. He was expensive though, like you needed a lot of Battlefield currency to rainbow him, but honestly 2 dupes was all you needed really to get the most out of that guy, and he was also by far the best Battlefield LR, so if you were to use your currency on someone, it would be him anyways. In free to play GT Frieza was a pretty good free to play unit. He could stun on Super, had 30% damage reduction, and gave extreme class allies 2 key and 25% attack and defense. That base kit was, like I already said, exactly what you wanted from a free to play unit at the time. A decent tank with some utility and support. From what I remember, he was a phenomenal free play option for SBR. I actually used him to beat the Extreme Int stage for the first time. That stun, support, and damage reduction just made him so good there. AGL Hellfighter 17, who came alongside the Int GT Frieza, was also a very decent free play unit. He lowered attack on Super and had a 50% chance to dodge at the start of turn, which was an insane combo for SBR at the time. I used him alongside the Cyclopean Guard to beat the Extreme AGL stage for the first time. The guy linked pretty well with the other Extreme AGL androids. He shared 5 links with AGL Super 17, so together they made a very decent rotation. I swear, 50% dodge chance felt like 70% dodge chance back in the days. Int LR SBR Goku was an insane free play LR on release. He had a crazy leader skill, given 3 ki and 100% HP attack and defense to all types, like this was insane back then on a free unit. Then the guy sported allies on his 18 ki, while also having a chance to stun the enemy on his 12 ki. A very good super attack effect for SBR. He gave super class allies 2 ki and 30% attack and defense that became a 50% buff once he dropped below 50% HP, something you saw pretty often in SBR, and he also had a 30% dodge chance at the start of turn, while being an in-type unit, meaning you could build him full dodge, and he was just an insane utility unit that you could slap on any of his teams. He was a great SBR unit, but the problem is that to rainbow him, you had to beat all of the SBR stages. So yeah, he definitely could have been better considering how hard those stages were, but still a phenomenal LR. Agile LR Prime Battle feature Trunks was an SBR beast on release. He was essentially just stats, but he had a lot of them against multiple enemies, as well as 8 ki. So you literally just couldn't miss a super with him in SBR. Him and the LR physical Trunks made a pretty insane rotation there, like they shared 5 links together. This is literally the first Prime Battle LR I ever farmed, without like a category boost. Not exactly because of how good he was, like he like it definitely played a part in my motivation to enter that like horrendous Prime Battle grind, but it's obviously because I'm a future Trunks stan, and this is probably like my favorite version of Trunks. That card still slaps to this day. Like bro, just look at that aura, man. Like that card art is so cool. 8-bit Goku and Vegeta were phenomenal fish play units on release. More so Vegeta. Like Goku could dish out some pretty impressive attack stats, especially for a fish play unit, but he wasn't that far off from Vegeta offensively, while being much worse defensively. Vegeta was actually cracked defensively for some reason. He essentially raised his defense by 50% for 4 turns on super, so if you built him full additionals, the guy was practically invincible after a couple of supers. I still remember using him in SBR and just being so surprised by how tanky he actually was as a fridge play unit, and this was before his awakening. After his awakening, this guy's offensive and defensive numbers were literally on the same level as some Dokkan Fest T-Wars. He was just that cracked. The Fridge Play Dragon Ball Super Broly movie units were some of the best Fridge Play units we ever got. Not only were they all very hype cards, they were all at the very least decent. Broly was definitely the worst one, since he shared the same name as his Dokkan Fest counterpart, while being much worse than him, but the Code Goku and Vegeta were very good, and just had aura, man. Like, we need an LR Code Goku and Vegeta at some point in the future, or even as a tag unit. And Physical Golden Frieza was just insane. Bro had damage reduction and defense at the start of turn, one of the nastiest defensive combos a unit could have at a time, while also supporting movie bosses category units, giving them key attack and defense. The guy was literally a must run on the movie bosses team, and an absolute SBR monster, thanks to his defensive capabilities. Just an insane fish play card. LR Goku and Arale were so cracked on release. They were sub leaders for arguably the best fish play category in the game, then sealed on their 12 key super attack, greatly raised defense on their 18 key, which went a long way with their LR stats and damage reduction in their kit, and were also rainbow orb changers. Like, at the time, this was just so insane to see on a fish play LR. They had utility, could tank very well in slot 1, while also doing some pretty decent damage with the right amount of rainbow key spheres obtained. Like bro, they were arguably better than some of the Sun Bull LRs that had released that year. They were just phenomenal and good pretty much everywhere. Tech Supreme Kai was a pretty good fish play unit on release. He was a sub leader for the Realm of Gods category, raised super class allies attack by 30% for 1 turn on super, and had 1 key and 20% attack and defense per Realm of Gods category ally on the team. So he could get up to 7 key and 140% attack and defense, which at the time was a pretty significant buff. I used him in my first Realm of Gods team since I liked good units, and this guy was not only good, like he could easily launch 1 million plus super attacks, but was also self-sufficient, like he had 7k at the start of turn, which just made him such a great filler unit even though his link set wasn't the best. The 4th year anniversary had so many great fish play units. Ingiro was phenomenal on the GT Trio team with his support and ceiling on super. Both Goku and Vegeta Jr. were very decent cards post super, their numbers were pretty insane for fish play units. Tech LR Oob was an absolute beast for hard events thanks to his free Senzu, attack debuff on super and utility transformed. Like bro, that healing was just so clutch in SBR, easy as or even Dokkan Battlefield. Int Universal Spirit Bomb Goku, who was an absolute beast in the Shadow Dragon Saga SBR stage. It's literally thanks to this guy that many players, including myself, were finally able to beat that SBR stage. And obviously we had LR Pen, who was just just absolutely cracked. She could stun on both her 12 and 18 key super attacks, could super early, only needed like 9 keys to launch her 12 key super attack and 15 keys to launch her 18 key super attack, recovered 33% of the damage she dealt as HP, and had a 50% chance of having 55% damage reduction at the start of turn. Like, she was just built for SBR, with that stun chance, damage reduction, and healing. Healing was actually insane at the time. She was straight up the best free play unit in the game, and bro, her active skill attack buff was just so insane. The damage units could dish out next to her on that turn was just so crazy. Like, all around, they just cooked that anniversary with the free play units. LR Prime Battle Cell has to be one of the best Prime Battle LRs in Dokkan history. Bro was just so cracked on release. He recovered 15% HP on his 12 key super attack, lowered attack and defense on his 18 key super, had key and pretty decent stats in his kit, and had guaranteed crits against attack debuffed enemies. The attack debuff on super coupled with his healing on his 12 key just made him a beast in Super Battle Road. I remember building that guy full additionals, so you had turns where he would lower the enemy's attack with his 18 key and then launch a guaranteed crit super attack that also healed you 15% HP at a time. Like, it was just insane. Int Yardrat Goku might not have been one of the best free play units in Dokkan history, but the guy was definitely one of the coolest, while also still being very strong. The guy could stun on super, had a 50% dodge chance in slot 1, and 59% damage reduction against normals in slot 2 or 3, while also countering those said normal attacks. Like, you could build him full crit and have fun with his counters, but you could also build him full dodge, and he honestly was a pretty solid defensive unit. I personally built him full crit, as counters were just so fun back in the days. Like, this was for sure the most fun mechanic in the game, and having it on such a cool card for free was just absolute cinema. The Dokkan Awakening of the Baba Shop 18 that came with him was, on the other hand, your typical decent free play unit. Like, she had everything you wanted from a free play unit. She lowered attack on super and was a very decent support type unit for the Android category. And with how packed that category was with support type units, she just made that Android team even better and more fun to use. The 2019 Hero Celebration came with some of the best free play units in Dokkan history. They were both support type units for their respective class type and categories. Avs even lowered attack and defense on super, which actually made him one of the best free play units for SBR. He could generally cook there, and Great Saiyaman 4 stacked attack and defense on super. So you can guess that just from there, he was a beast in the Legendary Goku event. So two free play units who were each very good in at least one of the two hardest events in the game. The 300 million download celebration, free play exchange units were absolutely phenomenal free play units. They were both absolutely insane units for the Legendary Goku event thanks to their stacking on super, and the exchange Goku and Gohan card was even more cracked in SBR thanks to their attack debuff on super. Like, they were good practically everywhere, and the Gohan part of the card was actually pretty insane against an Android / Cell Saga category enemy. Like, a 50% crit chance with 2 additional attack was nothing to laugh at the time. This is for sure one of the strongest free play units in this game's history. The Halloween free play units in this game have all been pretty insane for the most part. I've already talked multiple times about Gotenks and Ghost and how crazy he was, but two other free play Halloween units were honestly just as good. Agel Kid Trunks stacked defense on super on release, while also having built-in crit chance, meaning you could build him full additionals and the guy could absolutely cook in the Legendary Goku event. And Candy Vegito, bro, the guy also stacked on super on top of being able to stun the enemy and had a great chance to dodge. This combo not only made him insane for SBR, but also usable in the Legendary Goku event. I honestly wonder if we'll ever get that card as a Dokkan Fest unit in the future. Like, imagine a Vegito with some sort of Candy Vegito standby skill. Or he could even start as Candy Vegito and then transform into Super Vegito. Honestly, could be very cool. The free-to-play future androids were pretty insane free-to-play units on release. They both stacked attack and defense on super, had additional buffs when paired together, and launched an additional attack when facing a hybrid sin category enemy. Like, they were genuinely insane cards for a Dragon Ball History event, and could cook in the Legendary Goku event. Some of the best free-to-play units they ever released. Strength Evil Saiyan or Cumber was an absolute beast of a free-to-play unit. He stacked attack and defense on super, gave Extreme Class Allies 20% attack and defense with attacking, a buff that was calculated separately, while not only debuffing super class enemies attack and defense, but also launching an additional super attack after receiving an attack as the first attacker in a turn. Like, the guy was just so good. Not only for the Legendary Goku event with his defense stacking and additional super attacks, but even in SBR with his attack debuff. Just an all-around amazing free-to-play unit. As surprising as this might sound, Agel Dokkan Fest Android Android 13's Celebration brought two of the best Fridge Play units in this game's history. The Baba Shop's Strength 13, who not only stacked attack and defense on Super, but had 40% damage reduction when attacking with 8k or more, and 130% attack and defense when facing a Goku, Vegeta or Trunks enemy, and an additional 70% attack and defense with an Android 14 and 15 on rotation. Like, the guy was just completely insane for the Legendary Goku event. If it weren't for the fact that he shared the same name as his Dokkan Fest counterpart, this guy with his kit alone would have been seen as one of the best Fridge Play units in Dokkan history. But unfortunately, he just didn't have any team because he shared the same name as the leader, and this was before the same name update. And physical Android 14 and 15 were also pretty insane. They lowered attack on Super and had some absolutely insane buffs with an Android 13 on rotation. Like, with an Android 13 on rotation, they got an additional 70% attack and defense and could foresee the enemy super attack for the rest of battle. Like, bro, what? This ability is still cracked to this day. Guaranteed Scalder for the whole battle, like, brother. This was just insane and turned the Legendary Goku event into a complete joke with 13's team. But that wasn't it. With the Fusion Android 13, they gave all allies 30% attack and defense and had 30% damage reduction. So they weren't dead weight and could actually hold their own in the last phase of the Legendary Goku event. At least against normals. Like, those two Fridge Play cards were just insane, bro, insane. The 5th year anniversary actually brought super decent Fridge Play units. Int Kid Broly post EZA could stun on Super, while also stacking attack and defense, so just with that he was already good for the Legendary Goku event, but then he also had built-in dodge chance, which coupled with his stun on Super, actually made him a decent option for SBR, so he could cook in almost every hard event the game had to offer at the time. And look, I know I talked a lot of shit about LR Strength Jamasu's EZA, and even Super EZA for that matter, but honestly the guy was not that bad post EZA on release. Like, you could cook with him in SBR, since he lowered attack on his 12 key, and he could actually get some of his final blow stacks there. His design was still horrendous, but all around, still one of the best Fridge Play units we ever got. Like, he was at least usable in SBR. Prime Battle LR Krillin was a phenomenal Fridge Play unit on release. Bro was actually a proper leader for the Earthling category. Actually the only proper leader that category had on release and for a very long time. So it's a good thing that they actually made him good. Otherwise, that Earthling SBR stage would have just been impossible to beat. But yeah, Krillin was built for SBR. He had an AoE 12 key spread attack that could stun, which was just insane there, since he could stun multiple enemies at the same time. And he also gained multiple buffs against multiple enemies, including a super attack when facing 6 or more enemies, something that made him pretty good in the World Tournament. And he also stacked attack and defense on his 18 key, so he could also cook in long events. Like, the guy was pretty much good everywhere. This is probably the closest thing we ever got to a Dokkan Fest Krillin. The 2020 Worldwide Celebration had multiple Fridge Play units that are worth mentioning. In Super Sentry Goku, for example, was very good at the time. The guy had 180% attack and defense and was super effective against all types. His first 3 turns. This went a long way, even with his Fridge Play stats. Like, the guy was pretty impressive early into the fight, but then fell off into a cliff as soon as he de-transformed. The concept of the card was very cool though, hope they reuse that idea in the future. Then we had Fiscal Oob, who was a monster in the Legendary Goku event. Bro had guard, stacked attack on Super, could get up to 4 key and 120% attack and defense, while also getting even more attack after getting hit. A buff that was calculated separately, so yeah, the guy could dish out some pretty crazy attack stats in long events, but the Legendary Goku event wasn't that difficult anymore, so the guy never really got the opportunity to shine, but it doesn't remove the fact that he was very good there. And obviously the MVP of the celebration was the Exchange AGL Hercule and Boo card, which I've already talked about multiple times. Like, that unit was just ridiculous. They essentially had everything to dominate the hard events of the time. Defense stacking, damage reduction, support, dodge chance, attack debuff, like, they were just insane. Both in SBR and the long events the game had. Physical Casserole was an insane Fridge Play unit, not only on release but also post EZA. The guy had pretty much everything. He stacked on Super while having built-in additionals, supported Universe 11 category units, and had some pretty insane base stats, at least post EZA. Like, the guy was just insane, and had such a great design. It's very unfortunate that both on release and when he EZA'd, the Universe 11 category wasn't in the best spot, but honestly his EZA was so good that you could literally still run him on Gotopu's team a year later. Like, he was just that insane. The 6th year anniversary probably had the best batch of Fridge Play units we ever got in this game's history. I already talked about them, but I'll say it again, because they were just that good. Physical UI Goku was just an absolute monster, stacking attack and defense on Super while having built-in dodge chance and supporting the best category in the game at the time. Deckmaster Roshi and TNs sealed and lowered the enemy's attack on Super, a pretty cracked super attack effect for SBR. Then they gave a massive sport type buff, super representative of Universe 7 category units on rotation, so literally the best units in the game, and gained attack and defense when getting hit. Buffs that were calculated included separately. So fully built up, they had over 250% attack and defense at the start of turn, which was just insane, even with their free play stats. And LR Master Roshi, who honestly might just be like a top 5 free play unit in this game's history, like the guy was straight up better than most summonable LRs at the time. The guy literally had everything: stun, sealing, dodge, support, and both the active skill mechanic and the new revival mechanic, which was a lot easier to proc than both of the new 6th-year anniversary headlining LRs revivals. Like, bro, was crazy. Like, honestly, they were all runnable and the hardest event in the game, which was the god event at the time. You could even argue that they were most runs in that event, or at the very least, Master Roshi was. They just absolutely cooked with the 6th-year anniversary free play units. Physical Saiyan Saga Goku was a phenomenal free play LR on release. He was clearly built to help out new players with how simple his kit was and the support he provided to the rotation, also obviously how easy he was to obtain. Like, you didn't really have to do anything really. The guy was just unconditionally good in almost every single scenario. I think if he had gotten like a 200% leader skill during the 7th-year anniversary, he would have absolutely cooked in the red zone events alongside LR Strength Kaik and Goku. And bro, when the guy got his easy, they just went all in, bro, and they gave the guy everything. Defense stacking on his 18 key, guard, damage reduction, support, built-in additionals, crit chance. Like, he was just insane for a free play card, especially one that easy to obtain. Talking about the 7th-year anniversary, unlike the previous anniversaries, it didn't bring the best free play units, but it's mostly because of how bad the power creep was that celebration. Still, there's one card that stood out and was honestly pretty decent: the AGL Goku and Chi-Chi free play unit. They supported two of the best categories in the game, had pretty decent stats fully built up, which they did pretty fast thanks to their built-in additional, but what really made them stand out was their active skill. It was essentially a free Ghost Usher. Like, this was just an insane ability to have on a free play unit. Just like LR Saiyan Saga Goku, they would have cooked with a proper team on release. Int Android 16 has to be one of the best first strike unit in Dokkan's history. The guy was an absolute wall against almost every single tech enemy in the game on release. 60% damage reduction when his guard was active was nothing to laugh at, and since he had guaranteed guard against 3 or more enemies, he could actually cook an SBR. The guy was a great example of how to design a decent free play unit. A unit that for the most part was alright, but very good in specific scenarios. The Cooler Worldwide Celebration brought its set of very good free play units. Tech Cooler finally got his Dokkan Awakening and Easy, and the guy was just an absolute monster. He stacked defense on super, while also greatly lowering the enemy's attack, making him a beast in any event where you could debuff the enemy. Then, with all of his multiplicative buffs in his kit, he could look pretty insane defensively after a couple of supers, while also supporting Terrifying Conqueror's category allies, a category that was in a very good spot at the time. The problem is that he just got completely overshadowed by Strength Cooler's Easy, understandably so. Like, the guy was good, but he was no Dokkan Fest Strength Cooler. Then the Exchange Physical Kid Gohan and Goku card was pretty decent in base. Like, they had decent stats, dodge chance, and still on super, and you could even exchange it to Goku later into the fight and recover 50% HP. The problem is that Goku only had guard if you started the turn above 77% HP, but most of the times than not, you wanted to exchange it to Goku when you were low on health to make the best out of his free half senzu. No idea what they were even thinking with this guy's design, but making that guard unconditional, or at least let it activate after getting hit and not at the start of the turn, would have made that free play unit so much better. Tech LR's percent Trunks and Broly, okay, maybe they weren't the craziest unit on release, especially if you're unlucky with their additionals, but bro, we can all agree that this is one of the coolest cards in the game. A whole what if card of Trunks and Broly with Dokkan original animations. And it's not like they were bad either, they could actually cook with the right skill orbs, Rainbow Orbs and RNG. Like, they could look very good offensively. I think that with an Easy, this card might just become one of the greatest free play units in this game's history. This might be pretty controversial, but I think AGL, Dragon Ball Super, Superhero Gohan was a great free play unit, at least post Easy. Sure, they barely gave him anything, and he would have been way better if they had just given him some defense on super, but he honestly could still tank most normals from what I remember fully built up. And the damage the guy could dish out more than made up for it in my opinion. Like his first appearance, he easily dished out multiple 2 to 6 million plus super attacks, who were guaranteed crits by the way. This was pretty insane for a time, at least coming from a free play unit. He could cook in SBR and even some red zone stages. Nothing crazy, but pretty solid for a free play unit. And bro, that super attack was just so cold. Like him removing his glasses, then launching a Kamehameha, nah. It was actually too good. Strength Yamcha was a very good free play unit post Easy. He wasn't anything crazy, but definitely runnable, which by that year's standards was something. Most free play units at the time were just straight up dead on release, but thankfully they made the choice to delay this guy's Easy and actually actually gave him a proper easy A the year following his release. Like bro, his stats were pretty decent, and he had guard, support, built-in additionals, and all you needed was a Pepicles unit on your team. And thankfully, that year, we got LR Strength Bulma, an insane Pepicles unit. And the Dragon Ball Saga actually had a proper leader who was still pretty good. So yeah, Yamcha literally had everything going for him. Pretty much the same thing within Bulma. She was very good stat-wise, and the Dragon Ball Saga category was in a good enough spot for her to actually look good. Like, I remember being very impressed by her defense back when she first easy'd, and that 80% dodge chance for her first 3 turns, honestly, never failed me. Those two were just amazing fish play units. Angel Fish and Person Goku was a pretty decent fish play unit on release. The guy just had so much. Support, healing, guard, and damage reduction, as well as some pretty nasty multiplicative buffs. Like sure, to have him at his best, you had to be below 60% HP, which was hard to do because all of the healing in his kit, but even without the guard and damage reduction, from my experience, his stats were so high that honestly, he could tank just with his raw stats, and was legit almost untouchable with his guard and damage reduction up. And obviously cooked against strength type enemies, as his guard was always up against them, meaning his damage reduction was also up. In featured Trunks was a pretty good fish play unit post easy. He wasn't anything crazy, but could look pretty good after a couple of supers. And I liked how they designed his domain. In the hard events of the time, you could proc it turn 1, and by the time it was gone, it was strength feature Gohan's turn to activate his domain. Like, that synergy was actually pretty neat. And look, as a future Saga stan, that unit was just so cool. I won't lie, I never used that guy, but Physical Bion is still worth mentioning in my opinion. He had a phenomenal design for a fish play unit. The guy was essentially just a wall before taking 7 hits, with his damage reduction, defense on super, and keep dash attack nullification. But from what I remember, bro had a pretty bad link set. No categories, and I guess even by that time standards, his stats weren't good enough. But I think that with an easy A, this guy could genuinely become one of the best fish play units in this game's history. Tech LR Kid Goku, Krillin, and Bulma were not only such a cool unit, but also very good on release. Their stats were pretty much decent for a fish play LR that hadn't easy'd yet, their support type buffs were pretty good, and that active skill turn with the dodge chance and attack break was very helpful. With an easy A, this card could actually look insane. It's probably the closest thing we'll get to a playable One Piece card in this game. LR Bio Broly was a phenomenal fish play unit. Bro was an absolute wall. His first like 8 to 9 turns, and on his 5th and 6th turns, the guy was literally just invincible. He had 90% damage reduction. Like, this was just insane. And they even gave him a taunt. So bro was literally a fish play beast Gohan. Sure, he barely did damage, but he was so good defensively that it didn't even matter. Bro could tank 20 million plus super attacks on his active skill turn. Like, he was just that good. One of the best fish play units we ever got for sure. The Saiyan Saga fish play team was, and honestly still is, such an insane fish play team. Like, he could beat most of the OG hard events of the game with them. Like Red Zone Broly for example, who for those who were there, just remember how difficult that event was. And your player could literally beat it for free with that team, only 2 years after its release. This was just crazy, bro. It really goes to show how insane that team was, especially with LR Goku. Physical Hit was a phenomenal fish play unit on release. For some reason, they gave that guy counters. Like, brother, how is the first hit in the game being able to counter a fish play unit? Not only that, but the guy was a Rainbow Orb changer and could have more than 80% dodge chance post super. Honestly, you could argue that the guy was the best hit in the game at the time as a fish play unit, which was just crazy. I think that if that guy had better stats, he could have generally just been a Dokkan Fest TOR. AGL LR Demon King Piccolo was such a good fish play unit on release. He was a phenomenal floater with his support, dodge chance, and orb changing, but he unfortunately just had no decent teams. He was meant to be run on full demonic power or extreme class teams, when all of the top tier teams in the game were none of those. Bro, at this point, I'm genuinely convinced that the devs maybe like OG Dragon Ball, but don't think it will sell or something, because bro, this guy's animations were pretty good, and his OSTs, bro, his OSTs are still to this day some of the best OSTs in the game. Why put so much effort into a fish play unit when he could have easily been a summonable LR? Brother, Dragon Ball Saga is, I think, the category with the most amount of fish play units in the game. Make it make sense. LR Agel's Percent Bardock was such a crazy fish play LR. I'm surprised the guy was even free. This could have easily been a summonable LR. Like, brother, it's a what if Super Saiyan Bardock with Dokkan original animations. He was at least vulnerable in the hardest events of the time and very good in Festival of Battles, since his stacked on both of his super attacks, had built-in additionals, support, and a Scalder that let you make the most out of his active skill turn. Like, the guy was good, he just lacked teams. The Rosie clones were all phenomenal fish play units, especially on LR Strength Rose's team. Like, you could generally beat some of the current hardest events in the game just with them in LR Rosie. The last time that happened was with Dokkan Fest AGL Middle Cooler and the fish play coolers. The AGL clone could get up to 90% dodge chance on a full clone team. The tech clone was underrated on release since people didn't really see the value in his debuff and attack break, but he was still insane. The int clone had a permanent Scouter, that alone was crazy. The physical clone was the most reliable defensively thanks to his guard and damage reduction, and the strength clone was definitely the weaker one as all he provided to the team was damage. Good damage, but still just damage. Like, honestly, they just all worked so well together. Definitely one of the strongest fish play teams in this game's history. Strength LR Nuava Shenron was an insane fish play LR release. Bro could comfortably tank normals almost anywhere post super on Omega's team, while nullifying key blast super attacks for his first 4 turns, which on Omega's team wasn't a problem at all. Most fights ended by turn 5 with the damage that team had, including the damage coming from that fish play LR. The damage Nuava Shenron could dish out on Omega's team was insane, and the active skill attack break could also be pretty useful in specific scenarios. Like, honestly, they just cooked with that guy. Like, bro, you could farm him directly as an LR. What else could you ask for? Possessed, GT Gohan, Trunks, and Goten were all phenomenal fish play units, and exactly what Baby's team needed at the time. They were very good floaters with good defensive mechanics and very good support. Sure, you had to keep them in slot 3 at all time, except for their first appearance, which was good as it gave you time to set up your rotations, but yeah, they just cooked, bro. I wish they would do that more with like niche releases like Baby. Just give them a couple of very good fish play units to fill out their teams. LR HL Super Galaric Jr. was a phenomenal Battlefield LR on release. I actually had a ton of saved Battlefield currency, so I was able to rainbow him as soon as you could, and he honestly felt very strong to me. He had support, decent stats, rainbow orb changing, but I think what really made that guy great was the revive. This was, and honestly still is, such a strong ability. Like, having a free turn where you know you can die just had so much value, and his revive had a pretty decent condition. Like, it was just turn 4, so you could just float him off and have it on his next attacking turn. Just a very well designed unit in my opinion. The Tamagamis were all pretty decent fish play units, but Tamagami 1 was so far and away the best one. Bro was practically invincible. For his first 4 turns on a full Daima team, brought utility to the team with the support and rainbow orb changing, while also stacking defense on super if you were lucky enough to proc his EX super attack. His damage wasn't the greatest though, but it honestly wasn't that bad considering how great he was defensively. As of the time that I'm recording this video, the latest crazy fish play card we got was the Strength Cyberman. Like, brother, his leader skill was apparently so strong they had to nerf it. I had Demon Guy units and I don't think the team was anything nerf worthy. Like, it was good but nothing crazy. What was crazy was the in Cyberman on that team. Bro was, and honestly might still be the best unit in the game on that team. Like, bro, 100% damage reduction for 6 turns while doing insane damage is just too crazy. Like, that's insane. If we ever get some actual playable Cyberman units in the future enough to fill up that team, it honestly might just break the game again. Like, that Strength Cyberman was and still is an insane card. 70% dodge chance, 50% damage reduction, crazy stats under his own leader skill. Like, brother, this was just insane. The best April Fool character in Dokkan history for sure. But yeah, this is it for today's video. I didn't talk about every single fish play unit obviously. Like, I think the World Tournament characters will be a whole different video. Same for the fumbles. Like, you can't really complain if a fish play unit is bad since the unit is free, but there are plenty of units that got mid to bad fish play cards when they should have been summonable units with actual good kits. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take care, peace.